There's my Cummins engine. You can't really, you can see it's a Cummins there, or down there, or not a lot of places on the nameplate, obviously, but that's what it is. Somehow it's got a Mercedes oil cap, though. That's interesting. So what are we going to do today? Well, today is oil change day and service day. So I'm going to go through this with, I wouldn't say a super fine tooth comb, but I'm going to check out everything, make sure all the critical stuff is right and tight and filled, and you get it. So we're going to do an oil change. This will actually be its second oil change. I changed it the day I got it. We're going to make sure that all the brakes are greased well, first of all, that they're in spec. We're going to grease them. We're going to make sure they're fully adjusted. Going to check underneath, make sure everything is tight, like all of our steering linkages. We don't have a bad bushing or something like that. Going to check my fan belt. That should be turning free, and it's not. That's interesting. I may need to address that. We're going to check the air filter. We're going to check all of our fluid levels. Check our brakes out. Going to check all of our bushings, our steer joints, stuff like that. I'm debating on changing the fuel filter. I feel like I should. I probably will. I'm definitely going to grab the filter. We will see if I actually do it or not. We'll jack up the front end. We'll check the bearings in the steers. Check our belt. I'll probably slack off that belt just to check that all the idlers are in good shape. I did have a tiny bit of a squeak when I fired it up this morning. We're going to go down the drivetrain. We're going to we're going to grease all the U-joints. All right, so below the engine, got this quick drain thing. I love these. They just make changing oil so much easier, so much cleaner. Not necessarily faster. It does drain a little slower, but the fact that you can shut it off, world of difference. As you can see, I only have one pail. I have lots, but I only need one pail because I can shut this off whenever I want. Yeah, life is peachy with this. And I got a new floor creeper. Fun. So despite that it's black on black on black, don't know if you can tell, but it's getting kind of full. So I'm just going to back this guy off, and it'll slow it till it's pretty much open, or pretty much closed, which is right there. And then I can just swing it out of the way. Now, doing the filter, and this is one thing I always forget. They have those tools where it cups the bottom of the filter, and I keep on forgetting to buy one. We have the straps. I really like these. They work really, really well. Except when it's up against the frame rail. So I did this in the summer. It wasn't all that much fun. Well, I still need to find a better way to deal with this oil filter. Last time I tried, actually, it was a pail kind of like that, with probably more success than I had today, because today I had that oil pan up on top of the axle, and it still made a hell of a mess. So anyways, we'll deal with that. You can see, luckily, like 99.999% of it is on the cardboard. Yeah, that wasn't so bad. I don't know, where are we? God, the lighting's terrible here. I don't know, you can see my mark right there, probably. But yeah, that's a nice trick to prevent over torque and also to be able to know if it's backing off. It shouldn't if it's properly torqued, which is hand tight plus 3/4. So that cardboard was relatively clean when I put it under there. So I went and I wiped everything down and put the oil cap back on. Where is it? Right there. And we'll give things a shot of pressure washer in a can. Just keep things clean-ish. Filters changed. Caps back on. Time for some oil. And I bought this Western Global pump here this spring? This summer, I think. Oh boy, am I happy I did that, because this guy's at a really awkward spot with this pipe. In the way your funnel wants to tilt down and you have to feather it in. Versus this guy has a flow meter that I've calibrated. And yeah, it's pretty sweet. What I do, because I'm quite paranoid about it, is I usually fill to about 80% capacity, and then I go a liter or two at a time from there. So I'll pump this guy up to about 40, and then I'll go right to the top of the fill or full safe range. I'll run the engine for about 2 minutes, not 2 minutes, probably 30 seconds. Give the filters a chance to fill. I'll shut it off for 5 minutes, let the oil drain back down, and I'll check my level and I'll top it off. So, this guy's zeroed, and all you got to do, it's hooked up to the air compressor. I don't know if you can see that, but. And it'll do about 8 liters a minute, something like that. Takes a fair amount of air, but she'll just sit there and she'll pump away. You can actually lock it in. Hangs really nice. I'm pretty fussy when I do my engine checks. I check as much as possible. A lot of times I like to just work the idlers just to make sure they're not seized in position for some freak reason. So something to know is most fans on semis they're fail-safe on. Like your brakes in your semi. If you have no air, they lock up. If you have no air to your fan clutch, it also locks up. That's just so you don't overheat. It will steal horsepower from you, but you will get where you need to go. So I was investigating that because I had this thing fully aired up, key on, and I noticed this yesterday is it seemed to be lacking power, and a couple times I'm like, I'm pretty sure the fan's going, and I look down and it's like 170. It's only 170. I don't think the fan should be going. I got a sneaking suspicion it's that solenoid in here. You can't see it, it's pretty dark. But I can trace this line all the way to the front. Now it should turn like nothing, but it doesn't. The reason it turns like that right now is because I was also looking at something else at the same time, and I discovered I have a bigger problem. It's not critical yet. It's definitely not engine overhaul, but my alternator, I'm going to turn this guy around. My alternator has some shaft slop to it. You can hear the bearings gone. I think it's in the back end. So I'm going to deal with this while it's still nice out, while we're not planning on hauling right at the moment, despite the fact that I have a load on that. As it stands right now, I could throw this back on and probably run it for a little bit. But I'm going to see if they got one in town or if they can have one in the next couple of days. If they can, I'm going to deal with that. So this guy right here is my fan clutch solenoid. The yellow on top, that yellow line, that's your air supply line. And it's actually a purple line. If I pull this loom off, that purple line, if you follow it all the way to the front, that gives air to my fan clutch. With air in the system and the key on, as long as my engine is not hot, as in not hot enough to trigger the, what's it called? Wow, the fan clutch. The thermostat should be for like 100 and probably 190, I think, I would guess. Have to look into that. Anyways, there should be air pressure in here as long as my engine is not running above the call temperature. Being that I can put my hand on everything, if I turn that key on, there should be air coming out of this. I popped this line off, there was no air. So then I pop this line off, there is air. That tells me one of two things, but really especially one thing, is that this solenoid's not working, because these guys are designed to fail open. It could be the sensor, the temperature sensor, and I think it gets that from the ECU or ECM, because that goes into there, which goes into wherever. But I'm banking it's that. I'm banking it money on that. Now the kicker is that's a Freightliner part. Dad was in at Warner Freightliner today about 3 hours ago. Now they're on their way home. So that sucks. May have to do some calling around, may have to make a quick trip tomorrow to, I would hope, Estevan or Weyburn. There is a chance that the Spartan Trucking down here, they do a lot of Cummins engines. They might have that part. So yeah, I'll call them, see if I can track down one of those. And then if it's not that, I got to find where the sensor is. That's just a matter of either Googling it or following wires to likely that guy would be my guess. Yeah. I say with a fair bit of certainty that it should be that solenoid, because I know my temperature gauge is working in there. I don't have a fan override switch. Freaking bugs. And so that leads me to believe that the solenoid went, which is not an uncommon problem. If I was to, so if this was to fail, it should short out and it should show a lot, like really high temperature, or none at all. So I'm kind of leaning towards that this is not the problem. That solenoid is the problem. Tomorrow morning, I'll probably call Spartan first thing, see if they've got one. Well, there's good news, bad news, and then better news, and then other news. Good news, found an alternator. Bad news, it's in Winnipeg. Better news, I was at so the cutoff time for putting in orders is 5 o'clock in Winnipeg, and right now they are an hour ahead of us. But luckily, I got to the auto parts store at about 3:30 our time, so I was able to get the order in for the morning. It should be dispatched and here sometime during the day tomorrow, I would guess early afternoon. What I'm going to do right now, actually, is load test each individual battery, which is going to be a bit awkward because of the way things are wired together, but it's not all that difficult. I also have a new springy thingamabob coming from Dad, or not from Dad, with Dad. Well, lucky for me, Spartan had the part I needed. It's actually a Packard part. The one on here is Kenworth, but sounds like they're all the same. There's like 3 or 4 different versions. Mine's got the little swivel thing on the top, but yeah. I showed him the pictures. Oh yeah, we got those. Didn't even look at the part number. He goes to the cabinet and they had like 30 different ones. That one's pretty good. Oddly, but not oddly enough, all the batteries are good. Now, they should have been good. When Dean dropped off the truck and said, yeah, have a look at it, that was one of the first things I looked at. They were all brand new as of like April or May, somewhere around there. But there's always a chance you get a bit of a lemon of a battery, whether it's a bad pull or the plates inside are no good, or who knows, maybe it was filled with water instead of acid. On the flip side, I'm not really sure why she's leaking down. If it's just that the starter's on its way out,